We talked Strus. Let's go to the next big signing, which was Georges Niang from Philadelphia.
The minivan.
True or false? Georges Niang ranks in the top 15 of all active players in career three-point percentage.
Well, this seems like a trick question, so I'll say true.
I'm going to say true because every time we played them, he would hit a back-breaking three. We down 6, Georges Niang comes down, and he's wide. Who has him? Whose man is that?
The answer is true. Georges Niang, the 6'7", 6'8", 230-pound, 3-4-5 wing from Philadelphia, does rank 15th among active players in career three-point percentage. He's a 40% three-point shooter for his career. Jayson, we started with you with Strus. I'll start with you again with Niang. I really like this move. Are you as favorable on this signing as you were with Strus?
Yeah, I do like it a lot because the two together now you can play styles that you couldn't play before. You can pull Jared off the floor, you can put Evan at center, and you can surround him with shooters, which is something that they just didn't really have the capability. They couldn't do it. They didn't have the capability of doing that. And once you do that, now you've opened up the floor, you've created driving lanes. Donovan and Darius are only so good if they have nowhere to go. And now they have room to maneuver, operate, collapse the defense, kick to the shooters in the corner, kick to Niang, kick to Strus. If it's Donovan, Darius is out there. So it opens things up, and for that reason, I think they nailed it.
Before you go, G, can I give you two numbers?
Yes, you can.
So we talked about Max Strus on corner threes.
Yeah.
45%, pretty good. According to Second Spectrum stats, Niang shot 52% on corner threes last year.
That's crazy.
That is the epitome of a standstill corner specialist.
Yeah.
Another element he adds to this offense, which they did not have last year, is a pick and pop. Mm-hmm. This is a pick and roll friendly offense, but when you have Jared Allen and Evan Mobley as your rollers or your screeners, they're rolling every time because, as we've talked about time after time after time, neither can really shoot. Well, Georges Niang adds a new element to the offense by simply being on the court. And last year, G, what do you think he shot from three on pick and pop situations? This number comes courtesy of Second Spectrum Sports.
53.5%.
No, if he did that, he would have got $50 million a year. He shot 42% on pick and pop threes, which ranked among the top 7% in the NBA.
Man.
Georges Niang doesn't do a lot of the things that Evan Mobley can do. He doesn't bring the defensive intensity that Jared Allen does. But from an offensive perspective and a versatility standpoint, the stuff he brings is night and day different than the current two bigs on the Cavs roster. And it's something it's an element to the offense that this team simply did not have last year. I love the Niang sign.
And something that this may not be perfect. I literally just thought of this. He kind of reminds me a little bit of Channing Frye.
You stole my point. He gonna jump ahead of me and twinkle his fingers. I had it in the tip of my tongue. I was waiting patiently after the two stats for me. Now go ahead, man.
No, but Channing was bigger.
Yeah, Channing was 6'11". Yeah.
And he was really more. But he wasn't great defensively. There was teams where he just couldn't get on the floor. They couldn't play him. But Channing used to tell me all the time, if you let me stand in the corner and get my feet set, you're done.
Yeah.
Like I'll hit it every time. And this has sort of that feel to it of that guy who, in the right situations, in the right matchups, again, you're not asking him to be a starter. He's going to be a guy that comes off the bench. And just you pick the right moments, he's that dead-eye shooter that they haven't had.
See, Jayson
doesn't move well, but that's okay.
He understands that you got to talk to these Cavs fans and LeBron talk. Y'all don't understand no new wave stuff. The new, if you ain't saying LeBron, they don't get it. There's disconnect. But if you go ahead and give them something to point back to, they understand what that was. Channing Frye got the Toronto Raptors all the way up out of here. Yep. I felt bad for the Raptors at one point because they was doing the Raptors and the Hawks so dirty. It would be Channing Frye, and he hit 7 threes. And then Kevin Love will get hot 5 threes. And then J.R. Smith would not miss for some reason. And then Shumpert, all of a sudden, he wanted to start hitting threes. You already had Kyrie that was a sniper. The Cavs back then had layers and layers. Even they had James Jones coming off the bench at one point in time. They got Mo. They said, let me go get Mo Gotti back. Give me Mo Williams come back to hit a couple threes. They had all these shooters. Now, guess what? Now, Kyrie, he can slash to get to the rim. Now, LeBron. Now you can't afford to double team him certain places. Mm-hmm. Now the Cavs, if you slowly but surely look at what they're doing, you get a guy like this who can come off your bench. You now have waves and layers of different pockets that you can get into. You can do small lineups now. Now you got Evan Mobley, and if he's working on his game, the one thing that we do understand is we're not missing nothing defensively on the pick and roll. So don't worry about that. We can switch off on all of that. So we can go small. You can put Evan at the 5. You can have Niang in the game. You can have Strus in the game, the 2 guard. You can put Karis LeVert in it. It's a lot of things you can do now that could combat some of the stuff that you was weak at last year, right? And we could have got the Knicks. If we had these shooters, and I'm just going to say this. If you had these 2 shooters, the Knicks is up out of here. Easy, because you got more spacing, and you would have better looks from Donovan Mitchell and Darius Garland. They had 2 dudes looking at him, grabbing him all the way to the rim. It was ridiculous. No spacing.
The most common play in basketball is a pick and roll. And the reason it's the most common play in basketball, it's the staple of most teams' offenses. It's the hardest thing to guard. You're at a disadvantage inherently when a guy screens. His defender has to come over a screen, go under a screen, so it's really 2 on 1.5. Then you have to pick where you help from. And if you have non-shooters in the court, it's easy to choose who to help from. If you have, in a situation, Darius Garland or Donovan Mitchell, doesn't matter. We'll just pick one. Who do you want to use for this?
Garland.
We'll use Garland with the ball in his hands. And we'll use Mobley as the screener. And you're spacing the floor with Donovan Mitchell, 40% three-point shooter. Georges Niang in the corner, 52% from the corner. And Max Strus in the other corner at 45%. Where are you helping from? You cannot leave one of those guys. It's a pick your poison situation, and that is what we didn't see against the Knicks. The Knicks were able to completely collapse the defense, have 5 players with at least 1 foot in the paint because they weren't scared of Isaac Okoro. Sorry, Jetty. Sorry, Lamar. Sorry, Danny Green. They weren't scared of anyone else in the Cavs roster shooting, so they were able to collapse, and that just clogs the middle, and it makes it. It's like trying to run against a 10-man box.
And I would say
there's just not lanes. Now that they have weapons, everything spreads out. It makes it easier. There's more assist opportunities for both Garland and Mitchell. And guys, the game of this is stupid, but it's serious. The game of basketball is so much easier when you make shots. And Donovan Mitchell isn't gonna have to think when he drives, sees 2 guys collapse. What's a better offensive opportunity for my team? Me taking a tough jump shot or Georges Niang in the corner? Because last year the tough jump shot was a better option than kicking it out to Isaac Okoro, Lamar Stevens. With the guys in the corners now, that's the right basketball play. You make the right basketball play, good things happen. And I'm telling you, if everyone stays healthy and JB finds a way to get these guys to mesh and add a little creativity, this has the makings of a top-tier offense in the NBA next season.
I'm going to tell you what.
And I want to see him run. I want to see a little pace, too.
They do need to pick up the pace for as young as they are.
Yeah.
They're like 12 years old. And if Mobley can get to 30%, now it looks different, don't it? Like, he was at 22 or something, 21?
He was 25 as a rookie, 21.8 last year.
Well, listen, here's the thing. The great part about getting these dudes is you just hedge your bet. If Evan can get to 30%, you're like, great. We're even better. But if you don't, you're not banking on Evan Mobley jumping 45 percentage points in terms of what he's going to do as far as being a shooter. I will say this. I don't know about you, and you could ask the chat. I don't know if this makes him more watchable, but I will say at the end of the year, I was not enthused about watching the Cavs run anything back. I did not want to see. I just was tired of seeing, and it's just the thing, the Jetty stuff, the Lamar Stevens, the bench bunch, the Robin Lopez, you was carrying around 4 or 5 players that couldn't contribute to give you anything. I thought that ran its course. At least there's some fresh blood or some new guys in there that I could see some development and they could do some other things. I'm more excited about watching the season now than I was at the end of the year. And I think, that's a big thing. I think that is a thing for some fans. They just was like, yo, I just don't want to see the same squad.
And they can now. If you need to stop at the end of the game, you can put Okoro, Allen, and Mobley out there together. That's okay. You can put your best defensive guys out there. Switch offense for defense, call a timeout, get your shooters back out there. So there's still spots where they can body guys up, go big, and really focus in on the defensive end. But they don't have to play that way anymore. It doesn't have to be. I started to pull this apart last night, and I didn't get all the way through it. But we've talked about it before where, I've talked to people around the league who say you don't have to be number one in the league defensively, but you can't. And it's easier to win if you are mediocre defensively with terrific shooting than it is with mediocre shooting and terrific defensively. You've got to have the shooting component. And the last 3 years, the team that was the number one ranked in defensive rating was bounced in the first round. Now, the other one was Boston, which went to the NBA Finals. So it's not – obviously, defense matters. And defense, actually, a top 10 defensive rating matters more than I thought that it would. But you have got to have the shooting component or you're not going to make it very far. And we saw that firsthand. Mm-hmm. So they can still play defensively. They can still play the defensive style, the bully ball style. But now you can also pull Jarrett off the floor and go with shooters, or pull Evan off the floor and go with shooters all around. We've had the Jarrett conversation multiple times. I don't see any reason to trade him now because they were able to fill the needs. We talked about it before. I said it before. I thought it was a knee-jerk reaction based on one playoff series to trade Jarrett. The reason why you have the conversation of do they have to trade Jarrett is in order to fill some of these holes that they had. Well, they were able to fill their needs without moving him. So now I don't see a pressing reason unless it just all goes to hell next year and it doesn't work with playing two non-shooting bigs again. Aside from that, I think now he brings a level of flexibility to be able to play different ways.
Yeah, because now you could go. I like the thought process of going with the defensive lineup. You got other different lineups that you can go with now. Like in the playoffs, I thought a guy who was really good at Ty Lue was great at that.
Yep.
Ty Lue
was a matchup master.
And I like how he did it. And this was Kevin Love, prime Kevin Love. Hey, K, you ain't playing today right now. We can't get you. We going with Tristan Thompson. And we're gonna go with Channing. We're gonna go he mixed and matched brilliantly with the different pieces. Now, when you got this team like this, look, I don't think trading Jarrett makes any sense at this point because guess what? You got some shooting. You got better shooters in the starting lineup. You got some guys coming off the bench that can spell them. Now you look at it. If the Cavs are gonna say we're the number one defensive team, did they lose anything that will still make them the number one defensive team?
No.
So
they were the number one defensive team because they tried really hard at defense.
Well, theoretically, they can still hang their hat on. We're the number one defensive team. We didn't give none of those pieces up, and we got better offense.
I'd expect them to still be a top 10 defense next year. I got one stat and then one thing I got to tell you guys about Niang from one of his former coaches. But this is my favorite stat about the Strus Niang hires. I'm going to read this so I don't get this wrong. From Second Spectrum Sports. Last season, the Cavs made 953 pointers as a team. That was 19th in the NBA. If you replace Strus and Niang for Osman and Stevens, they would have finished 5th.
Wow.
Just swapping those two, they go from 19th to 5th. That's 205 additional threes made last season between Strus and Niang and Osman and Stevens. They may not seem like name-wise massive upgrades. Trust me, on the court, these are massive upgrades for what they want to do. One last thing on Niang before we move on to the last two here. Jason's connected in the NBA circles with everybody. I got a couple connections. One of them happens to be with the Sixers, where we just got Georges Niang from. Eli, who I've told you guys about their video quarter, and George, that's his tightest guy on the team. He texted me as soon as George signed with the Cavs and goes, dude, y'all got a great one. I asked him, I was like, all right, give me a little more than I would know. He's one of the smartest basketball players he's ever worked with. He goes, this dude could run every play in our playbook from every position. Just a nice little tidbit to have.
Yeah.
He is the nicest and most willing to help dude. He's with all the rookies working with them after practice, shooting. I'm hoping the first thing he does when he gets to Cleveland is goes find Evan Mobley and goes, hey, let's get up 500 jump shots.
Yep.
And he goes, listen, the rebounding numbers, they look abysmal. We told him box out, let other people get rebounds. You can't jump, George, so just box your guy out, make sure your guy doesn't get the rebound. So, yeah, the 2.4 rebounds for his career is definitely like, how's a guy who's 6'8", only averaged 2.4 rebounds? His job was not to rebound. His job was box out, don't let your guy get the rebound. We have Joel and other guys to get the rebound. And last but not least, he's not a good individual defender. A very smart team defender. He goes, watch how many charges he takes. He goes, Kevin Love took a lot of charges with Cleveland. Georges Niang will slide right into that role. He's always in the right place at the right time. That is coming from a guy who coached in the last 2 years, is super tight with George. And I do think not just his skill set on the court, but it seems like the makeup of who he is fits in exactly with what this young core, because he's played 3 years in college. He's a little bit older than your traditional first contract guy, but I think he's going to be a really, really good addition.